want to make sure we get to the topic of what's going on. Obviously, in Washington, the transition of power. Right. You decided to go to Donald Trump's inauguration along with the rest of the Connecticut delegation. What made you feel compelled to be there that day?
Well, to me, it's about the office and not the person. And, to me, the transition of power is, in a peaceful transition of power in a democracy, is really one of the, I think, just core crown jewels of our country. I had the chance actually to see Hamilton, and one of the most moving scenes in the play actually is George Washington, talking about that first decision to just peacefully hand off power when everyone knew he could have been, president for life. And so I think that's so important. Obviously, I was not a Trump supporter during the campaign, and my wife and daughter and I attended the march the following day. But that was also a peaceful example of democracy in action, and quite extraordinary 48 hours in Washington. Mm-hmm.
Well, I wonder what you think about this particular season, when we've had so many people at inauguration time say he's not my president and refuse to go and so on, and the whole business with the lawmaker, Mr. Lewis, right. Congressman Lewis, who's well known for his work in the civil rights movement, and then a lot of people were taken aback by the comments by our new president. What he said about that, and couldn't understand that. What was your reaction to that?
Well, first of all, John Lewis is somebody who I just, feel so special and honored to have had the opportunity to serve with him. I mean, I just think of the great heroes of our nation, and he obviously had very heartfelt feelings in that decision. But to me, again, what we've got to do is recognize that Mr. Trump was elected. President Obama had to be there, and again, he did, I think, his constitutional duty by attending it, and so for that moment, I think we really have to sort of come together and recognize, I think, really that this is a special democratic event. Having said that, I mean, we're now in a realm where we're talking about policies, and that's where I think our democracy again will be there to make sure that we're going to have the proper checks and balances to make sure that we try and stay, I think, reasonably headed in a positive direction. Again, I have a lot of concerns with some of those executive orders which have been getting churned out. The hiring freeze was done, I think, very sloppy. They did exempt military personnel in the Department of Defense. They did not exempt the Department of Veterans Affairs. There are 4,000 posted positions in the VA
4,000?
right now. 4,000, and we're talking about critical occupations, doctors, nurses, physician assistants. I mean, when we talk about the wait list problem in the VA, part of it is a lack of clinical staff. And to freeze that hiring, just shows complete sort of careless, almost reckless disregard for the need to get quality people out there helping veterans. We also did not exempt Department of Defense civilian staff. So at the submarine base down in London, we have open positions for police, fire, public works. That's what makes that place go. So the guys who are down, and they're getting killed with it. I mean, we talked to the police officers and firefighters. Mm-hmm. I mean, the overtime that they're carrying because of unfilled positions is, it's a problem for people's families. And we should fill those positions. And again, they'd never called anyone over at the Pentagon, excuse me, before that order was issued. And, a new president has the right to sort of call timeout and say, I want to evaluate things. But I think even a quick call to the VA and understanding how important it is to get surgeons, right. Particularly behavioral health professionals because of post-traumatic stress problems. I mean, that should not have happened.
I want to make sure we get to this. There's so much we could talk about with the new presidency and everything, but crumbling foundations is in your district. It's such an important issue. In your neighborhood, you have neighbors who have this problem, right?
Yes.
Okay, the $6 million in state funding that Governor Malloy has proposed to go to the testing. A lot of homeowners, first of all, kind of frustrated with that. They say time is of the essence. Why can't that money just go to helping fix my home? who would run this program anyways? Would it be the state? Would it be the insurance companies? Because I think homeowners are going to have a problem with either of those at this point.
Right. So again, this package was put together without sort of my involvement. But having said that, I think it's significant to say $6 million public dollars are now on the table, which is certainly an important event. I mean, because that has not existed before. But I do think there's really important questions to ask about the allocation of it to testing. There are some good reasons for testing, particularly for people who are trying to, sell their houses to be able to, get buyer confidence. The IRS, who we're talking to allow people to write off their loss, are also going to require validation of casualty claims that it is related to this. So testing has some value. Part of that money is from the Housing and Urban Development, from HUD, which we were able to get them to commit to the fact that community development block grant money, federal dollars, could be used for this. I frankly think it's too small, and I also think I have a lot of questions with how the Commissioner of Housing is planning to use those funds. But again, at least the fat's in the fire now, and we're at a place now where we're talking about real resources. And I know there's a strong bipartisan push from legislators in Hartford to come up with other ideas, and it's a big problem. And frankly, it's not just the individual homeowner. This affects a market, and that's not a good thing when you're talking about a real estate market, because the ripple effect is very big.
Real quick, what do you think of State Senator Larson's assertion that there should be a concrete czar to oversee?
I mean, I actually think you need to have it, because there's a lot of pieces to this. I mean, frankly, I think the insurance companies, who George Jepsen got to partially propose a fund to help, I think that needs to get revisited. Again, there's tax issues. There's, frankly, local issues in terms of building permits, tax assessors, and to have sort of stuff happening very sporadic and ad hoc is just, you're not going to make progress. So I think a centralized mechanism, whether it's a czar or a working task force, I mean, it really needs that.
Well, Joe Courtney, Congressman from the 2nd District of Connecticut, thank you very much for being with us here on The Real Story.